development of new projects, including opening the Olovo lead mine in 2017 and the optimization of the group's 4 operating base metals mines in Serbia and Bosnia. Dominic studied in Bristol University before going into the forces and leaving military service in 2007. Subsequently joined Minico in 2013 and is very closely involved in many of the European programs, notably Horizon 2020 Innovation Funded Project. So over to you, Dominic.
Thank you, Garen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will try and keep this brief, though that's not my normal habit. Briefly, a couple of words about Minico. We've been around for 15 years now. We are operating mines. We have 4 of them here in the region, 1 in Bosnia and 3 in Serbia, including the newly commissioned Bosilegrad operation where the pilot plant is now producing concentrates, although I'm not convinced we're paying royalties yet, so perhaps we'll have a chat about that later. We have a further 2 projects under development, actually both in Bosnia and Olovo, where we are commissioning a mine now, and in Celebici. Further afield, we are in the largest secondary lead smelter in Russia, which sounds rather grand when I say that. And across the group, we now employ nearly, in fact, over 2,000 people. Just a bit of showing off. This is our Sase mine near Srebrenica, when we acquired it in 2006 to where we are this summer. But enough about us. I don't think we're being paid today to talk about our companies. So I'm going to move across and have a look at the subject in mind. And I thought I'd do a quick SWOT analysis of the Serbian mining sector from where I see it, working in a small mining company operating in this environment. So I'll look at the internal aspects, the strengths and weaknesses of the Serbian mining environment, and then I'll also briefly look at the external influences, the opportunities and threats to us in this market. So first, looking to the internal, to our strengths. I think we still pull on an educated workforce, and I wholly and sincerely trust that some of you young engineers at the back are up here in 5 years' time presenting on your projects here in Serbia as well. The other speakers have talked about it, but there is a cultural acceptance of mining in this country. It is part of our national psyche. We believe in mining, and on the whole, the general public support mining. I'll leave it to the geologists, and they've already explained it, but we are an incredibly prospective region. But it's not just about gold. If we look towards the EU Raw Materials Initiative, and more of that later, do not forget about the industrial metals, the lead, the zinc, the antimony. They are also critical to the future of European industry. And we're also lucky to have a relatively benign topography and climate and a relatively good infrastructure, certainly compared to where the majors work in South America or on the Australian deserts. What are our weaknesses internally? Organizational transformation. We have done an incredibly good job so far, and the mining ministry has worked very hard. In 2015, we had one of the most progressive mining laws in Eastern Europe published by the government. But we've got to keep the work going. And I implore on you, Minister, to keep up all of your energy and your activity in that sector. We must not hold back from embracing new technology. We've got to look at updating our 1979 regulations, and I know you're working on that. We need to introduce the role of the competent person into our law here. Looking ahead, also, as the companies have been explained, we're going to be soon entering a period of issuing exploitation licenses, and with that will come a whole new challenge. Here in the room, we have an awful lot of expertise, global expertise. Draw on that expertise. Let us work together to get a mining code that is suitable and fit for 21st century Serbia. Every jurisdiction in the world has problems with its licensing and permitting, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and make it better, and we can do it. I'll miss on some of my points. We haven't got time today. Demographics. We are suffering from an aging population. We are seeing an urban shift. We're seeing a brain drain, both to Belgrade and, of course, internationally. We're also seeing, we at the mines, an increasing reluctance of our young men and women to enter the dark, difficult manual labor of mining. We need to reverse that trend. And again, I think industry and government can work together I think it's time for industry and government and the academic institutions to start looking more at their relationship. We see it everywhere else in the world. Look across to the majors. You sponsor mining colleges all over the world. It's time for us to start looking at investing in our engineers and their training here. We need to do this. We need to reverse that shift. And that is a fundamental weakness that we must address. So moving externally, away from our borders, what are our opportunities? Well, the massive one, is actually what's going on politically around the world. Deglobalization, resource scarcity, trade conflict. We're moving into a period of global instability. We are seeing America retreat into its borders. We are seeing conflict. We've got enormous pressure on international trade and trade routes. The movement of our concentrates to China is no longer guaranteed. We must look at this as an opportunity for European mining. Europe has recognized this. I can't better Mark's speech, but I can only emphasize what Mark was saying. The European Union knows that we need to secure our industrial manufacturing base here in Europe. And the only way to secure that is by getting access to the raw materials that we need for our industry. The lead, the silver, the antimony, potentially even in the future, the iron ores and the bauxite to create the metals that we need to keep European industry moving. Perversely, the lowering grades around the world is also an opportunity for us. The majors are struggling to produce enough copper. Grades are disappearing all over the world. That is an opportunity for us here in Europe to grasp. Environmental protection is actually an opportunity. We're good at it. We understand it. Within the European context, we have always operated within our environment, and I think that is an opportunity for us going forward. And of course, the digital transformation. Now, I will contradict myself in a moment with one of the threats, but the historians amongst us know that we have an industrial revolution or a social revolution. If we get it right, we can also engineer a revolution in mining affairs, but we will only do that if we fully grasp the opportunity that the digital world is presenting to us. We are nowhere near doing that yet. So what are the threats? Lack of innovation. I know we've heard a lot about European innovation, and here Mark and the others are quite right. We are driving it here in Europe. But globally, across the last mining cycle, the amount of R&D spent by the mining companies was risible. It was pathetic. On taking over of Barrick Gold, the CEO who'd come out of the Ford Motor Group explained that there had been, or commented that there had been no fundamental innovation in the sector for 100 years. And quite frankly, he's right. CEO Rio Tinto, productivity is going backwards in the mines at the moment because we're chasing lower grades, and the only way we've been able to do that is by increasing the scale of operations. We need to get better at this. Project finance has gone, as far as we're concerned. For people operating in our sector, mid-tier, mid-cap companies, forget the banks. We must now source our funding and our capital from our own cash flow, and we therefore need to be looking in the future at our capital allocation and the efficiency of our operations. We all bang on about efficiency, but we've not been very good at it. We need to get a grip and sort that out. Competition for land use, increasing urbanization, the allocation of environmental protection areas. Again, this is a threat to us, but we can work around it. And as Mark said, there's an incredibly good example in the UK where a potash mine has just been opened in an area considered the most vulnerable of our national parks. On a final note, I've also put the digital revolution as a threat. We in the mining industry have for decades hidden. We've hidden behind political support. We've hidden behind long distances away from urban developments. We have not embraced the change in digital information and social media. We need to understand what is happening in the world. We need to understand popularism. We need to understand the way in which people can come together very, very quickly at a moment's notice using social media and challenge someone. We need to get better at this. We need to engage more digitally with the communities and the environments that we operate in. I see no reason going forward why we will not be publishing our environmental statistics on hourly and daily basis on our websites and through our social media feed. We need to preempt these things because otherwise we will be caught out by this, and we've got to get a grip of this as well. In summary, I think there's an incredibly positive future for European mining. Europe needs mining, and she knows that. and a substantial part of that mining will be here. But we must continue at every opportunity to remove obstacles to investment. And at the highest level of government, we also need to remember and recognise that you need to have wealth creation before you can distribute wealth to the people. So support us and we will do our job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dominic. Very wide-ranging and thought-provoking as ever.